And it's your boy Exodus here. I'm glad to be back for another snippet. All right, so this week we're going to be talking about spoilers, right? So there are many types of spoilers out there, right? A lot of them help with the handling. Not a lot of them. A few of them actually do help with the handling, the aerodynamics of the vehicle, keeps, the drag. Not so much, depending on the spoiler, it affects the drag of the vehicle, which in the end you don't want drag, especially when it comes to racing. You don't want drag, right? But some of them do help with the aerodynamics and keeping the rear end of your vehicle down, right? So a lot of the spoilers that people do rock on these vehicles nowadays, they don't help. They're mostly just for looks, really. There is barely any benefit to them unless they do look way out there, and sometimes some of them don't even help. It really depends on the vehicle, and a lot of you guys might be wondering, does it help front-wheel drive vehicles? Yes, it does actually. It actually does produce more of a benefit to front-wheel drive vehicles than you would expect. And also what you don't find on the internet, how much it does affect and help with rear-wheel vehicles. All right, so that's going to be our topic about today. I'm going to cut now into the intro, and then I'll see you later. What's up, guys? All right, so there are different types, right? Spoilers. First one we're going to talk about is the Pedestal Spoiler, right? So it's what you see mostly in the movies and video games when it comes to sports cars, racing, anything like Need for Speed or Fast Furious, especially the first 3 iterations of Need for Speed, Fast and the Furious. So it's the typical spoiler that kind of like sticks out from the trunk of the vehicle. It's like pretty high up there, like it stands out, right? That does in fact benefit vehicles with front wheel drive or rear wheel drive. Either or, the main focus of that is supposed to keep the drag low and make sure that the air, the spoiler uses the air to keep the rear of the vehicle firmly on the ground, improving the performance as in the handling. So you'll have more traction in the rear, better handling when cornering and braking. So when you are braking and the rear of the vehicle is dropping low, the air is also forcing that spoiler to keep the rear end low too. So you're not losing that rear end lifting up, which will break the traction it has in the rear, which could cause a tailspin. And that definitely happens a lot with rear wheel vehicle because all the power is coming from the rear. So if the rear has no contact on the ground, you're going to see it lose itself and, fishtail or worse, spin out of control. You don't want that. So those pedestal spoilers, as I'll show you right over here, sticks out and is good for performance, but most of the time people are just using it for the looks, really. People get them on their vehicle and they don't even know what they do for their vehicle. And it's not put in professionally, or it's put in with no knowledge of how for you to have it, how for it to be angled, so it does give you the benefits. You'll see these a lot in exotic cars or cars that come from out of the country, like Nissan, Toyota, Honda. You'll see all them having them, all these racers trying to have these nice looking vehicles, these nice ass spoilers, but they're not providing any benefit. They're just there for the looks. But if they used it correctly and had it in the proper height, and at that point you have to look at getting it custom fitted for your vehicle, because each vehicle demands for something more than just what you can get in stock from a website, a third party, place. So yes, it does provide benefit, but most of the time people are just using it for the looks. But that is the first spoiler we'll be talking about. And now we're going to go to the next one. All right, so the next one, right? It falls into the spoiler family, but it's not really a spoiler. It's called a splitter, right? So it goes into the front of your vehicle. It's like right in the bottom. We call it like the bill, the lip. You literally see them in vehicles. They're just like something that sticks out from the bottom and it's out to the front, right? So this splitter, what it does is it helps the vehicle's aerodynamic of the vehicle by when the wind is hitting it, depending on what speeds you're going to, it literally will pull. In the end, it doesn't really increase handling, but it does help you cut through the air easier, because again, you got to think about it. It's this metal tin driving like at 60 miles an hour against the wind, which usually causes drag, which slows down the vehicle, which means your car has to work harder for it to continue staying at that speed, which guzzles more gas. Now imagine you have something that helps it kind of like cut through the air, like split it to where it's not being forced to be held back, and it's able to use less energy to continue keeping up that speed even with the wind hitting it. And that's literally what the splitter does. The splitter is really just there to save you on gas, make your vehicle more aerodynamic, and just kind of control where the air goes as you're driving through anywhere. All right? Next. All right. Now, the next one is, they're called lighted spoilers. All right? So these are the spoilers you see in the sport editions of certain cars, like the Honda Civic Sport has these spoilers, or the Nissan Sport has this, or the Toyota Sport. There's these spoilers that barely stick off the trunk. I would say about like 8-10 inches, right? And then there's this little light bar, which, yes, it helps improve safety, because when you're pressing on the brake, not only do your brake lights shine, but now you also have this little red bar like right in the middle where like something like, whoa, that's red, they're stopping, right? So it does improve safety, but when it comes to performance or handling, it doesn't do jack shit for it. All right, so it doesn't do anything. It's just there for the looks, like I say. So these sports cars that you buy from the dealer, we're like, oh yeah, this is the regular Honda Civic, and then this one, if you want to go a little bit faster, is the Honda Sport. See the spoiler? It means it's sport. No, it's not. The spoiler there is just for the looks. It doesn't do any performance or handling benefit at all. It's just there for the looks. And us as consumers looking at it like, wow, that does look sportier. It does look like it can go faster. I'm going to get it. And then you think you're a badass driving it, but it doesn't really improve anything. At top speeds, it's not helping you at all, like, do anything. Especially because most of them are flat like this. How is this helping the air keep the back of your vehicle down? Usually, it has to have a slight, tilt. So as the air is hitting it, it's forcing it to push it down. Right? Yeah. So these spoilers don't do anything. They're just for the looks. Many people, when they do get in their vehicle, they're like, oh yeah, it's so badass. But like, it doesn't do any performance at all. So that's why most people just do replace it, get a pedestal, or they get the other ones that we'll be talking about in these videos. Crazy, huh? All right, so next is roof spoilers, right? So we're talking about mostly the hatchbacks, the station wagons, if they need a spoiler. But anyway, mostly about the hatchbacks, right? You see the GTI, the GTO Volkswagen, or you have the Honda hatches. Or the Hyundai, what's its nuts? Can't remember the name. It'll probably pop up right here. Anyway, those have those little roof spoilers. They're literally these little spoilers that like just stick out from the back of the roof. You're like, kind of like, whoa, what the hell does this even do? Well, those are actually beneficial for those vehicles. Like that's something that when the manufacturers created them, they're like, you know what? Let's actually think about something that will actually help us. And that's it, the roof spoiler. It really does help. So whenever you're stopping or braking, or you are doing those tight corners on those vehicles, they actually do help keep the rear of the vehicle down on the ground, which aids with it not losing traction during a cornering technique, or when you're braking really hard, the rear won't just slide out from under you. That's what you don't want at all. So those actually spoilers, the ones that like kind of stick out, or sometimes they do stick off the roof a little bit through the back of the hatch, it does actually prove a benefit. So if you do have a hatch, and let's say you don't have the sport package that it came with, and it doesn't have that spoiler on the rear of the roof, that is something I would advise you to kind of spend a little bit of money, add that if you start adding any performance to your vehicle. But even if you're not trying to make that vehicle, you know, you're working on it yourself, you're modding it, just for safety reasons, I would still get those spoilers. Even though if you don't have a sport one, it will help if you, I don't know, for some odd reason want to just speed through a corner and you start cornering and you just want, you know what, you want to keep that safety, I would say get a roof spoiler because it is beneficial. That is like one of the few spoilers that we've talked about today that actually makes a big difference. It really does. So I would do that if I were you. If not, whatever, just my opinion. Let's talk about the next one, right? Woo! All right, so last but not least, there are many others, but I'm not gonna talk about it in this video because I don't believe it's that necessary, in my opinion. So the next one is the lip spoiler, right? So these are very, very, very common in muscle cars, especially the ones nowadays, like the Mustang, the Charger, the Challenger. They have that little lip spoiler. It's very small, but still noticeable. It gives it that little bit more of an aggressive look. So there's good and bad news for people to have those, right? It helps, but it doesn't. It's kind of like, So it helps when you're going, you know, at normal speeds, low speeds, I would say. But when you're going up and above, I would say highway speeds, like 80, 90, 100 miles an hour, which, I mean, not legally highway speeds, but at highway speeds, when you can go 100, 110 miles an hour, it does very minute benefits to handling and traction, right? It does help, like I said, in like slower speeds, maybe like 50s or 60 miles an hour when you're doing cornering or you're stopping like on a dime. Yes, it'll help, but you're still gonna have issue with having so much power in that rear that you will, you know, fishtail. You will, I guess, it doesn't stop you from fishtailing the vehicle, or if you do it on purpose and power slide on these muscle cars or these rear wheel drive vehicles, it won't really stop it that much. Because again, it has a lot of power. It would need a pedestal spoiler. But what you can do to aid you a little bit more in handling in higher speeds is there are many people that get extensions on those lips. It's kind of like a little extra portion of it that makes it stick up a little bit more. That will help, not by a lot, but it will help out at faster speeds when it comes to the handling. So let's say like 80, 90, 100, like around that, it might help you with the handling. But then again, it really just depends. The ideal thing for the muscle cars would be to have a higher spoiler, a pedestal spoiler, so that it can keep its rear on the ground, which is the most important thing for a rear-wheel drive vehicle, especially with a lot of power. You want the tires that push the vehicle, that gives it that power, that launches it, to stay on the ground. You don't want that lifting off the ground, because at that point, vehicle's not moving. All the power is coming from the rear, so it needs to be on the ground. So if you are going to go with something big, even though it won't look really that well on a muscle car, it is what's going to increase the performance. The lip ones that comes with really doesn't do much. But there are some other variation of the lip spoiler, like the whale tail. A few of the Porsches, and there are other vehicles that had it too. I just can't remember off the top of my head, but the Porsche 911 would be, the older ones would be the perfect example of the whale tail, which is like this flat bill almost that like kind of sticks out from the rear end of the Porsches. And that actually did help a lot with its handling and its just keeping the rear of the vehicle down on the ground to maintain that constant contact, with help that, of course, with traction, braking, and the cornering that it needed to do on turns. But you know, they have slowly kind of pushed away from that huge, I'll show you a picture right here of that huge ass bill on the rear of the vehicle. Now they have the spoilers that kind of stay hidden, and then they come out and they stick out. So it still is using that whale bill spoiler or whale tail spoiler, but it's not as obnoxious as it was back in the day, where it was like a permanent thing. Now they hide it just like most of the other exotic cars, Ferraris, Lamborghinis. They hide the spoiler until it's needed, and then it raises. Because again, at slow speeds, you don't need spoilers. You don't. That's why, if you think about it, all these sports cars, you know, when you're giving 40, 50 miles an hour, it doesn't need the spoilers. And then once you start, you know, ascending that speed, that's when it will come out automatically, knowing that, hey, this is now when I'm needed. It won't do it beforehand. So anyway, that was a topic I want to talk to you guys today. Hopefully I've answered some of your questions about spoilers and whether or not you even need them in your vehicle. Because if you're using it as a daily commute, you don't need it. And hopefully that I have given you that information when it comes to performance and increasing the performance and handling of a vehicle. Now you know which one to get and which ones to avoid. Unless, you know, you want to be a racer and just have the car look nice and it not do jack shit when it comes to handling. You know, I'm not, you know, dogging on racers, but if you're going to have a car that looks like it can perform but it can't, it's dumb. I don't know if you guys heard that. That sounded really nice. Anyway, if you want to get something that looks good but doesn't perform, that's garbage. In my opinion, I'd rather have a sleeper than a car that looks like it can perform. It doesn't make sense for me to deck out my car and make it look like it can, kick ass. And then some dude with a little Honda that just looks at you, he's like, yeah, you want to go? And he just gaps you. And then you're just left in the dust wow, bye. No, I'd rather have a sleeper. I'd rather have my car look stock, and then when I slam on that accelerator, there's I fucked up. Best. That's the best. People underestimate you, and that's when you get them. Anyway, thanks again for watching us. Please do hit that, you know, like button, subscribe, and then please ring that bell notification so you can keep up with all our uploads in the videos that we'll be talking about. Again, I promise you I did not forget about going to car shows. It's just been dealing with a lot of stuff here personally, and they've been really dead. I've gone to them and they've been dead. So I haven't even attempted to record and show you guys some mediocre stuff, which was getting me very angry at producing that to you guys. That is not what you guys are watching our channel for, and I'm not gonna be wasting your time. All right? Again, deuces. Take care. See you next time.